second years are doing 12 tone right now, and this is an overview of Webern's big froh. It's one of the ones we use because it's a really great example, and it also is short enough but presents things in a very interesting way. So 12 tone, we need to identify what the 12 tone row is, and then we need to plot it out on a chart here and then get the inversion. And there are things online that will fill this table out for you, but we can do a lot of it on our own too. So let's talk about this. We're going to presume that you have listened to this enough that you're familiar with it. How do we get the row? Some theories are that you just start right here at the beginning and go through, and that's your row. And to a certain degree, that's true. But in this case, this is the accompaniment, and I think that the row is going to start and present itself in the melody. Right? Right? And then, right? Right? I suspect that's what it's going to be. Remember that Schoenberg and Webern and Berg, for the most part, weren't trying to be clever and mysterious. I mean, sure, maybe, but that they thought of this as a new organization and system of music, so that you could write what was logically to them the next step in music, atonal music. So they serialize or pre-order the notes, but they're not trying to be agitators in that they're trying to be clever and like hide it from you. They want you to see and hear the row. They want you to become familiar with it. They want you to be able to recognize it and its sounds and things that it presents. So they're not trying to be tricky by doing this here and then saying I bring the melody in later. Just piano pieces or piano and voice pieces will have often some kind of intro that gets things ready and sets the stage and sort of the harmonic and melodic gestures that are going to happen. Also, if we chart this as a row, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what do we do here? They're happening at the same time. Do we go down this way? Do we go up this way? Do we every other one? We don't know how that works. Whereas the melody comes one at a time, okay? So let's just chart this out for a minute. And I'm just going to put numbers here. This is my first note, my second note, my third note, my fourth note, my fifth note, my sixth note, my seventh note, my eighth note, my ninth note, 10th note, 11, and 12. I think that's my row. We're going to check to make sure they're all unique. I mean, this is actually kind of a skill to keep track of all the notes in a row, but let's just write it out here. Let's see. I'm going to put it on the top. G, right? E, and then we're going to go D sharp, which can be an E flat at times in the music as well. F sharp, because harmonic equivalencies are fine. C sharp, F, D, right? And then B, B flat, C, A, and G sharp. All right, cool. And then we're going to do, we're going to call this 0 right there, right? And 0 right there. In other words, we're going to presume that G is our home. Now, I know there's some other analysis methods out there which integerize them or put them in prime form, and prime form starts on 0, but we're going to do what's sort of been traditional for a long time, which is that wherever your row starts on, the first one you get, that's prime. We call that 0. This is our original row, and this would be prime form original row, or P0, because it's the original row going in the order of left to right, okay? And then to get the rest of these numbers for what to call them, you have to measure the interval from here to there, always going up, and then from here to there, always going up, and so on. So if you say, well, how many half steps up is it from G to E? It's 9. It's a major sixth. So maybe all those interval exercises and things that you had to do at the beginning of first year, you go like, wow, I'm so glad I'm good at them. Or maybe we have to go back and get better at them again. There's no reason why you can't sit at a piano and go, I'm on G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can also say there's 12 half steps in an octave, and so if we go the other direction from G down, it's a minor third. 1, 2, 3, and subtract that from 12 and you get 9. Okay? And then sometimes you can just say comparative, like D sharp is a half step below that, so it's going to be 8, right? F sharp is a half step below, which is 11 going up. I'm using the 12 integer. C sharp is I wrote it wrong, I think. Hold on. C sharp, my bad. C sharp is a tritone away, which is exactly half an octave, which is 6, right? If this was 11, then this is one less than that. It's 10, right? And then you can sort of do the same thing of C sharp. You can either say G up to D is a perfect fifth, and that's 7, or you can say it's one more than C sharp, right? See how that goes? This is a major third up to there, so that's 4 half steps. This is a minor third up to there, so it's 3 half steps. This is a perfect fourth, so it's 5 half steps. This is a major second, it's 2 half steps, and that's 1 half step to right there. And that's the transpositions or the distances between G going up to any given note right there. And that will help us because we're going to want to do one more thing with the row, is we're going to want to invert it. So instead of going up that much, we want to go down that much. And prime, or the way that the intervals go in the row this way, is also reflected in this direction. We call this the inversion of the row, right? So if this went up 9 half steps, and this one's going to go down 9 half steps, and that would be a B flat. Now, depending on where you are in your training, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You can say, what's 9 down, right? Or you could say, this is up 9, so it's down, or sorry, up 9, so this is 3, up 3, like it adds up to be 12. Right? Okay. If you want to invert, you could say, well, this went down, so this is going to go up, if you like thinking of smaller intervals. The other thing you can do is you can just say, what's this number here? What number adds to make 12? And then find whatever number it was, and that's your pitch there. But basically, this is going to do the same interval distances, but in the opposite direction that the original row is, and that's why we call it inversion. So this first row is P0 or prime 0, and this row going down in this order is I0 because it starts on the original note, but it goes downward like that. And we can, that's 3, right? And then you can, so we'll just do it integer-wise or number-wise. So we'll go, instead of going up 8, we're going to go down up 4, which that's a B right there. And sometimes I'll even just go across and say, well, then this is a 1, and this is a 6, and this is a 2. I'm just making it add up to be 12, right? This is a 5, because 12 half steps in an octave. This is going to be an 8. This is going to be a 9. This is going to be a 7. That's going to be a 10, and that's going to be an 11. And then those numbers here will correspond with the numbers that we did up here, right? So a 1 will be a G sharp, right? And then 6s are going to be the same either way, right? 2s and 8s, a whole step above, right? And then 5 is going to be a C for a perfect fourth, and 8 is going to be a D sharp or an E flat for minor 6, right? And then this is going to be my E right there. And then 7 is D, and then 10 is going to be F, and 11 will be F sharp. Okay? And then we can continue to fill this in. If you're learning this for the first time and you're just curious, now there is something called retrograde. Retrograde is when we go backwards through a row. Okay? But we don't call this retrograde 1. We call it retrograde 0 because it's backwards through the row that started on 0. So that's kind of a naming thing that sometimes happens that people get mistaken on. These numbers, only for naming purposes, are good for this direction and this direction. And these numbers here are good for this direction and this direction. So this is called retrograde inversion. because we're going backwards through the inverted row. So this is Ri0, and this is R0, and this is P0 and I0. That's a lot of work that we've done away from the score, but I'll show you why that's important to know. Let's go back to our introduction here, okay? And let's take a look at it. You see that there's an F sharp and an F right here, right? That's a half step, okay? So it can't be a version of prime on any transposition. Like, it's not going to be there because this is a major sixth above, not a half step, right? It's not going up a major seventh, I guess is what I'm saying, or a diminished octave. So it's not going to work that way. It could go in this direction because G sharp goes to A, right? So there's a half step there. Could be one of these ones, whichever one ends up on an F sharp over here and goes this way. Or it could be this direction as well, because these are ostensibly inversions of, but have the same interval content. So because we see the half step there beginning, we suspect, and check this out here, F sharp, F, D, right? Now, clef change, so don't get confused, that's an E, and that's D sharp is an E flat. And then we have the stack, but there's my C, right? There's my A, there's my C sharp, there's my G sharp, there's my B, there's my B flat, and then there's my G right there. It starts it off. It's clever that way, right? So we can see that, well, this is R, I, retrograde inversion 0. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, which is there and there. So we can start to deduce some conventions or rules about this. First one is that rows can, overlap's not quite the right word. The last note of a row can be the first note of another row and vice versa. And so he sort of said, look, we're going to start here. How do we get ourselves started on G? We could just start there, but if we do this Ri0 going backwards, or it could have been R0, but in this case it's not, we're going to end up on our last note being the G. And so it's like saying, get ready, da 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 da. It's not quite that, but you get the idea, right? It's quite different than that, actually. It's like, right, and then, right, and it's quite different from that sound. But the idea is it's introductory, and it gets us to the G right there, okay? Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm not gonna go through every single row. Students will have to figure that out on their own, but we will track a little more of this, and we can kind of see what's happening so we can get some other rules. So rule number 1 was that you can have the end of a row begin another row. They can overlap or have a commonality between them, right? Some other rules we've learned is that notes can repeat before they move on, right? And so we'll see that. But let's just go with our melody here. Min allegrin, right, it's like there, right? And then our next note right there, it's another G. Shall we check out and see if it's one of these guys here? So G, and then E, oh, it looks like we're gonna have, and then D sharp, and then F sharp. This looks like P0 again. 1, first note, right? 2, and don't get confused, these are the numbers of the notes in a row, right? Like this is the first note, second note, third note, but that's not the equivalent of the interval number that it is, right? And then D sharp is my third one, and then my fourth one right there. Now, here's something kind of cool that we want to talk about. We learned that the row could terminate and start a new row, and they could have a commonality between the two. And here we're going to see the melody starts here like this, and then there's this nothing right there afterwards. Well, it's going to jump down to here. So you can start and end with a common note of rows, and the row can jump from parts, right? So it can go from melody into accompaniment and things like that. So the row can jump, right? And if we do this, then also notice that the F sharp is repeated there. It's like duct tape or seam allowance or something that is sticking these two things together. But that's my fourth note again. C sharp is my fifth note right here, right? And then F is my sixth note right there. And then D is my seventh note right there, right? And then notice again that my D is right there. So it's my seventh note again. So it seems like they said you could repeat notes, but in this case, Webern is using them to get us from one texture to another, because this here is very much like a melodic gesture like this, but to get us into the harmony, like a harmonic structure there, he repeats a note, and it's like I can't think in English, tsunebari. It's connective material. And then to get out of it, he uses it again there. So we're learning all kinds of things about stylistic norms for writing in 12-tone, okay? And then we keep going there. So D goes on, number 8 is B, number 9 is B flat, right? Number 10 is C, right there. And we've changed clefs, so that's a C right there. And then A is 11, and then 12 right there. That's pretty good, right? Now we could keep going with the melody, but there's a temptation just to start right there instead. I think we're just going to go with our melody, because we're following the melody and sometimes it dives somewhere else and things. We look here, we're on a G again, right there, right? And another G, and then a B flat. So now we'll use, again, our sense of this row. Because the retrograde of the inversion and the retrograde has a half step right there, that definitely does not qualify. But that is a sixth. That is a major sixth. It's not a major sixth going up. It's a major sixth going in the other direction, right? Down. And look, it goes down. So we have a G and a G and a B flat. So a G, and a B flat. What's the odds that our next note is B natural? B natural, G sharp, right? G sharp repeated, A. So we've got a new version of the row from here. This is inversion 0. Starts on 1, does 1 again, 2, right? Right here like this. Then here's my B, which is 3, 4, right? And since we're switching parts again, 4 is repeated, right? And then 5 is my A. Did I do that wrong? G sharp, A. Oh, maybe not. Maybe this is not there. Maybe it's just right there. Maybe this is also part of something else from before. So G sharp is right there, repeated, sorry. And then C sharp. Have I done this wrong? Nope, there's my C sharp right there. 5, 6. And then looks like it's going to go to a C natural, which is my A, which is 7. E flat is the same as D right there, D sharp, so 8. And then E is 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 right there. Okay. So, you know, it's carrying on. Now, I think it can be confusing because this jumped to a G sharp there, but I suspect that there's another row running, or the same row running concurrently in there, which is another rule that we should get to, which is more than one row can run at the same time in its own parts as opposed to crossing over, or they can be the same row running concurrently at the same time. Okay, that's what we're going to do today for this video. There's other considerations, like I think you can track this through. I give a spoiler. This 12 right here, that's also repeated right there. And this is 1 again for P0. There's my G and my E, my D sharp and my F. It's going on like this. But you're going to have to go back and piece together, like, okay, if this is my new row, P0 starting there, then what's happening there? And you can see that it's doing the same notes right there. So this is probably P0 going on concurrently. So 2 rows or duplicates of the row can be happening at the same time, or even two different rows can be going on at the same time. And that gets us into advanced topics like combinatoriality and semi-combinatoriality, which is a different lecture and a different video. Yeah, which is, still good. Remember that just like there are 15 major keys and 15 minor keys, and composers wouldn't write a piece that would use all of them, or even many of them, maybe just a few of them. Composers have 48 different versions of their row. They have 12 transpositions going in prime, 12 going in retrograde, 12 going in inversion, and 12 going in retrograde inversion. They're not going to use them all. They're going to use precious few of them, just like we wouldn't use every major scale or every minor scale or a combination of them in a piece of music, although that is an interesting idea. Mostly it's not going to be successful. And so composers will go back and, as they're building this, they're not random. They have specific ideas of things they're trying to accomplish. And they can do that through various devices. Berg and Webern and Schoenberg all used something called all interval row, where it had every interval represented going from note to note to note, not in this one. Other things they'll do is they'll look at that right there, and that right there, and that right there, and that right there, and build them as though they're their own little cell sets. Remember from free atonal serial things? And so we could go back in and start to look and say, well, what does this make as a atonal cell? We can put it in prime form, and then we can put it in normal order, best normal order, and do an interval vector. And I think you're going to find some interesting relationships between these notes, these notes, these notes, and these notes. But that's further. First steps, though, listen to the piece, look at the piece, try and figure out what would be representative of the first and most important statement of the row. In this case, it's pretty easy because it's melody, right? And then from there, build the matrix, start to become conscious, especially of the beginnings and the endings of their different properties and intervals, because that will help you see when they start, which ones they could possibly be. Right, now we got lucky with these ones, but we could also have gone across and found one that ended in F sharp and then see where it went there. It would have gone up to G somewhere here. G goes up to G sharp, so this would have been like F sharp going to G right there. And this is going F sharp down, so we could find the other one that's like G, right? And this is a half step below, so there'd be G right there. So you don't have to build the entire matrix. If you are tactical looking at things, you can build ones that are likely. Yeah, there's lots to be done here. And hopefully, as you become more familiar with these sounds and what they're doing, this stops being sort of noisy gobbledygook to you, and you start to hear unique and interesting and sometimes beautiful sounds inside them as well, even if they're not conventional. All right, that's a good start.